On December 4th, 2018, which is exactly 3 years, 11 months, and 6 days ago, the members around this horseshoe were sworn into office by Her Honor Justice Morneau. Little did we know that 1 year later we would be faced with an unprecedented healthcare challenge that would rock the world. In my 2022 inaugural address, I told you that I wanted us to be remembered not for what we faced, but for our relentless commitment to achieve results for the people of Grey County in spite of what we faced. That said, I would like to take a moment to reflect on some of our accomplishments over the last year. In long-term care, thanks to the Redevelopment Committee, we made great strides with the Rockwood Redevelopment Project. This included a decision by Council to include assisted living beds in the build. Staff continue to manage outbreaks while protecting residents. We celebrated the opening of the new nursing wing at Georgian College, which will pump much needed homegrown nurses into our healthcare system. You'll recall that Grey County contributed $1 million to this important initiative to reinforce our long-standing partnership with Georgian College, as well as our commitment to addressing the nursing shortage in a meaningful way. We continue to look for ways to support our long-term care staff, including vacation and well-being initiatives. Turning to planning. In planning, we kicked off the OPA 11 process with public meetings in February. Council also approved the age-friendly community strategy and action plan. Turning next to climate action, Grey County approved its first ever climate change action plan, Going Green and Grey. That, my friends, is cause for applause. Credit goes to our climate change task force and our deputy warden for suggesting creation of that task force. We joined the Clean Air Partnership and began planting trees towards our commitment of 1 million trees by 2030. We adopted a green fleet strategy with recommendations for preparing for battery electric vehicle implementation over the next 15 years. And lastly, we commenced naturalization of the Grey County Administration Office property, which you all see as you drive in, as a positive step towards our tree planting goals of going green and gray. It was so much fun to attend that event where young and old worked together to plant trees. My daughter Chloe has claimed several of the trees outside that she helped plant, and she's claimed them as hers. In my 2022 inaugural speech, I called for action on mental health and addictions. And thanks to you, a mental health and addictions task force was formed in February of 2022. The task force received a number of community delegations from organizations such as the CMHA, Keystone Youth and Family Services, the Grey Bruce Poverty Task Force, the Community Drug and Alcohol Strategy, our Public Health Unit, and the Blue Water and Catholic Districts school boards. I learned a lot from this committee. I want to thank the members of the task force, especially the chair, Councillor O'Leary, who pushed us to find tangible ways to move the dial on mental health and addictions. And I'm confident that great things will come from the final report of this task force. Turning next to COVID-19, our emergency declaration was terminated on March 14th, 2022, just a few days shy of the 2-year anniversary of the initial declaration. Turning next to paramedic services, our paramedics were heavily involved in the supportive outreach project, bringing care to the most at-risk individuals in our community. We also completed a 10-year service deployment review. In economic development, we co-hosted and organized 3 regional job fairs throughout the area. We also developed a foreign direct investment strategy our summer company program for young entrepreneurs, and a starter company and digital Main Street program for small businesses were provided through the BEC. We saw a return of Ag 4.0 technology and agricultural conference. We also saw enhanced Great Transit route, the GTR service levels, and experienced exceptional increase in ridership, 240% increase. Lastly, the Grey Bruce Local Immigration Partnership, GB-LIP, celebrated Welcome Week and other community events. Next, highlighting our transportation department. Think back to late February 2022, specifically the Family Day weekend, where our transportation team was operating through a significant multi-day storm that saw heavy accumulation and several prolonged road closures. We completed 7 resurfacing projects on Grey Roads 2, 31, 13, 15, 10, 8, and 9. In other areas, we developed a 4-year corporate communication strategy to grow and improve Grey County's internal and external communication efforts through to 2026. Grey Roots saw a return to general events and exhibits, and council elected to enhance 35.5 kilometers of the CP Rail Trail, improving the surface, and making it more enjoyable and accessible to various trail users in southern Grey County. We also approved the updated asset management plan to ensure our 1.6 billion in assets are well managed. Turning now to social services and housing. Our Grey County team supported the evacuation of residents following a fire at a rooming house in Hanover. Grey County moved emergency shelter services in-house for enhanced efficiency. We implemented the Canada-wide early learning and childcare program. And lastly, we purchased a property on 14th Street in Owen Sound for the creation of supportive housing, and renovations are well underway. So there you have it. Let there be no doubt that Grey County is making headway on multiple projects that go directly to improving the quality of life of our residents. I want to thank our senior management team. I said it last year and I'll say it again this year. You showed incredible resilience and grit in the face of adversity. I thank you, and this council thanks you for your leadership, professionalism, and commitment to people. A special thank you goes out to our past clerk, Heather, and our current clerk, Tara. Folks, how often have you seen me consulting our clerks? They're the absolute best. They research and prepare for every possibility at council meetings, and no matter how much you tested them, and you did, they always came up with the right answer. I want to acknowledge my speechwriters, Katrina, Philly, and Rob. They always delivered under the tightest of time deadlines. Thank you. I think they will appreciate me mentioning that while the speeches were their words, the horrible dad jokes were all mine. During my 3 terms as warden, I was assisted by 2 amazing women, Penny and Kayla. Just imagine the challenge of trying to coordinate the schedule of a working lawyer whose schedule you don't get to fully know because of client confidentiality, along with a warden's schedule. Penny and Kayla had to work with my law office staff to keep me on track. It didn't always work, but it was never their fault. True story, by the way. Kayla was making phone calls on my behalf from her hospital bed on the day of the delivery of her last child. Talk about commitment to your job. Penny never once said no, or I can't do that. Instead, she frequently said, let me take care of that for you. And then there are individuals who do little things that make a big difference. People like Olivia, with her words of encouragement. Sharon, who has no problem whatsoever cutting me up. Kath, with her smile and a joke or two. And Monica, who would smile and say, bling, bling, each time I walk past her desk wearing my chain of office. I want to thank our CAO, Kim Wingrove. It is no exaggeration to say that Kim is one of the very best CAOs in the province. She is a leader in her field who is respected by her peers. She is a leader who mentors and lifts others. She is smart, strategic, and capable of carrying a very heavy load. Most of all, she's compassionate, always looking out for others. Kim, it was an absolute pleasure working with you. I learned from you, and Grey County is very lucky to have you for as long as we can convince you to stay. Thank you. And you're gonna make me cry. I don't cry a lot. I want to give a shout out to retired MPP Bill Walker, who set aside political difference to do the work with Warden Jackson and myself that was necessary during the pandemic. Thanks also goes to our MP, Alex Ruff, who made time to meet with me each quarter and allowed me to control that agenda. Our new MPP, Rick Byers, tells me that as a new MPP, he feels like he's drinking from a fire hose. Rick has been humble and inquisitive. I think those qualities will serve him very well in his new role. I want to thank our Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Era. I should refer to him as Professor Era because he taught me so much. I will never forget the conversations that we had all hours of the day and night during the pandemic. Funny thing, I thought I was special having had those countless conversations with Dr. Era until I found out that many others had the same experience with Dr. Era during the pandemic. Thank you, Dr. Era. County Council, I want to thank you. I can go around this horseshoe and confidently point to each and every one of you and say that you care. Of course, we have political, ideological, and perhaps philosophical differences. However, what binds us is a profound sense of duty, service, and a desire to make a difference. County Council, over the last 4 years, you have indeed made a difference. Our community is a better place because of you. And for that, I thank you. I want to single out one member around this horseshoe, and that is my mayor, Her Worship, Sue Patterson. Sue, you made it possible for me to serve as warden by lightening my load at the lower tier. During our first term on County Council, we often drove to meetings together, sometimes in nasty weather. I enjoyed our conversations that covered a multitude of subjects. We became good friends, and you were someone I could go to for support, ideas, or just as a sounding board. I'm going to miss working with you, but I know that we'll continue to be friends. Thank you, Sue. I've saved the most important person for last. My best friend and wife, Barbara. Being the spouse or partner of an elected representative can be challenging. It's hard to read a social media post or an email slamming someone that you love. It's hard to have your business partner off doing other things while you pick up the slack. Barb, I know that there were times when you could tell that my head was in a different place during family time. You supported me, you lifted me, you loved me, and you allowed me to go on this crazy journey of political life for 16 years. And for that, Barb, I love you. I'd like to conclude by saying what an absolute privilege and honor it was to serve as your warden. It is an experience I will never forget. You elected the county's first visible minority warden in her 170-year history. We had challenging times. There were many difficult and close decisions. There were a few occasions when I had to call and offer, shall I say, some gentle warden counsel. You were always respectful, understanding, and professional. I thank you for that. You answered my call each and every time I put a challenge to you. I thank you for that. I want to finish with a line that I used in my very first speech to you on December 4th, 2018. And of course, it's from that Canadian rock band, Rush. And it goes, "And the men who hold high places must be the ones who start to mold a new reality closer to the heart." Thank you, thank you, thank you.